Hi, my name is Zephra. I used to think that silence meant peace, that if you stayed quiet, stayed useful, and stayed small enough not to offend, things would work out eventually. But families like mine don't work on fairness, they work on hierarchy, and I was never at the top. So when my parents banned me from my sister's birthday, I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I didn't even flinch. I just watched the group photo they posted: cake, champagne, candles, all smiles, all pretending I never existed. And that would have been fine. Expected even. Until her boyfriend looked around the room, spotted a familiar face on his phone screen, and asked, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Wait, you're telling me Zifra isn't coming? She's my boss." The moment didn't go viral. It didn't need to. It rippled through the room like a glass shattering under velvet. The kind of silence that follows a truth too inconvenient to unhear. Let me take you back 6 weeks earlier. We were raised in a beige home with beige walls and a beige sense of what a daughter should be. I was the firstborn, the fixer, the unpaid therapist, babysitter, tech support, and emergency contact. My sister Delilah, the chosen one, the golden girl, the delicate flower who cried her way out of responsibility and into every family celebration, even the ones she didn't earn. She was the kind of daughter my parents liked to show off, not because she was better, but because she needed them in a way I never did. "You're not coming to Delilah's birthday," my mother had said 3 days ago, tone clipped like she was confirming a dry cleaning pickup. She didn't even make eye contact, just stirred her coffee while tapping her phone. "It's more of her close circle, you know? Work people. We don't want any awkwardness." Awkwardness. That word hung in the air like a slur dressed in pastels. The irony? I was Delilah's work people, just not the version anyone had prepared for. I had been quiet for a long time, long enough for them to forget what I do for a living. Or maybe they never asked. After grad school, I took a corporate detour, started in systems, moved to product, co-founded a division. I kept my head down and my results high. But last quarter, something changed. The board didn't just notice me, they elevated me. I wasn't the background anymore, I was the damn spotlight. Chief Product Officer quietly announced during a leadership shuffle. No press, no internal fuss. And Delilah? She'd joined our company 6 months ago as an assistant project coordinator, courtesy of a favor Mom had asked. I approved the internal referral with one eye closed and both hands clean. She didn't know who approved her. She didn't care. I watched from my apartment that evening, scrolling through her social feed. A tiered birthday cake, candles, confetti, a caption. "Can't believe I'm surrounded by the people who know me best." And yet I wasn't there. Not by accident. Not because of distance. Because they chose not to include me. Again. It wasn't new. I'd been written out of family holidays before. "You're always too serious, Zephra. Let her have the moment. Don't make it about you." But this time, something shifted. Because here's what they didn't know. Delilah had just started dating a guy named Nate. Tall, marketing exec, transferred from the Chicago office, charming in that slick suit craft cocktail way. And Nate? Nate was reporting directly to me. Not in a figurative sense. Literally, my department, my budget, my team. He didn't know we were sisters. Delilah had rebranded me as a distant relative who used to be in data or something, and I hadn't corrected him. Because some truths are like landmines. You don't step on them. You wait. That moment came faster than I thought. I got a Slack from HR about a Q2 product review scheduled on the same Friday as Delilah's birthday dinner. Nate was pitching in that meeting. So was I. The night of the event, I was in a sleek navy blazer, hair pulled back, minimal makeup. No need for sparkle when presence alone is enough. The meeting was fast-paced, numbers-focused. I didn't call attention to anything. Until Nate glanced up mid-pitch, locked eyes with me, and froze. "Oh, wait. Sorry," he stammered. "You're Zephra, right? Like, Delilah's sister?" The whole room paused. I smiled slightly. "Depends. Am I the version she remembers, or the one she erased?" Someone chuckled. It broke the tension, but not the truth. He blinked hard, like he was replaying a scene in reverse. And then he said it. She said you were in data. I was. I designed the system you're presenting. Boom. You could feel it. The shift. The moment someone's version of you collapses under the weight of your actual self. I didn't stay long after that. I had another call. But that night, Delilah's party stalled. Nate arrived late, sat in silence, and when someone asked where he'd been, he just said, "Work." Zephra had a few notes. Later, he added something else, loud enough for half the table to hear. "She's my boss." They say revenge is best served cold. I disagree. Sometimes it's best served casually, like it's not even the main course. Would you have stayed silent at that dinner? I didn't. And I never will again. The Monday after Delilah's birthday, I found myself staring at an old spreadsheet. Not the kind with numbers or performance metrics. No, this one was more personal. A private record I'd started compiling at 23. Back then, I just called it expenses I wasn't supposed to question. It wasn't neatly formatted. Some cells were highlighted in red, others just bolded out of frustration. But it told a clear story. Gas money borrowed by mom. Never returned. Delilah's emergency phone replacement I paid for. Twice. A $14,700 private student loan co-signed just temporarily. And at the top, one line stood out more than any dollar amount. You'll understand when you're a mother. I wasn't one. Still, I understood. It meant, you owe us your future because we spent your past. Delilah had always had a way of getting things gifted to her with a ribbon of guilt. She didn't ask. She just sighed loudly enough to pull empathy like gravity. My parents called it her sensitive spirit. I called it emotional pickpocketing. I used to think my role in the family was to be the backbone, but backbones break when the weight gets too comfortable. That morning, our department had a stand-up. My assistant, Lacey, handed me a post-it with the words, "Delilah, misuse of budget card?" I raised an eyebrow. "She used it to book a staycation," Lacey said quietly. 4 nights, spa add-on, said it was part of a brand insights retreat. There wasn't a single initiative on our roadmap that called for that. And even if there were, coordinators didn't book luxury suites without approvals. I kept my voice even. "Send me the itemized receipt and the approval trail." Lacey hesitated. She wrote, "Verbal clearance from upper leadership." I paused. "She used me as the clearance?" Lacey nodded slowly. There it was. Another entry for the spreadsheet. Just now, with company funds. I should have felt angry. But I felt tired, familiar, like déjà vu, but with better clothes and a worse paper trail. Back when we were kids, I remember walking home from school in the snow, carrying 2 backpacks. Mine and Delilah's. She claimed her back hurt from emotional stress after a C in algebra. When I told my dad I was exhausted, he said, "You're strong. She's not. That's why she needs you." It never once occurred to them that needing someone shouldn't look like draining them. I walked down to our legal counsel's office. Tony, our compliance lead, looked up and smirked. "Let me guess. Someone tried to outsmart the card limit?" I handed him the receipt and Delilah's verbal approval note. His eyes scanned it quickly. "Wow, she signed this with per executive team direction. That's ballsy." "I'm the executive team." He let out a low whistle. "Want me to open an inquiry?" I hesitated. If I said yes, I'd be throwing her into a process she wouldn't escape unscathed. If I said no, I'd be allowing the same patterns to continue, just with more zeros. I thought of the dinner I wasn't invited to, the phone calls I never got, the way our parents had laughed on speaker when I said I had a work conflict, not knowing I was the conflict. "Document everything," I said, "but don't act yet." Tony nodded. "Silent file?" "Silent for now." That night, I got a call from my mother, not to check on me, but to complain. "You humiliated your sister," she said, no greeting. "In front of her friends, no less." I was in my kitchen, stirring tea. "She did that herself, Mom. I was in a meeting I was scheduled to lead. I didn't even mention her name." You stood there and let her boyfriend call you his boss like it was some kind of power move. It wasn't a move, it was my title. She's not used to that kind of exposure. You know how sensitive she is. She's not allergic to truth, Mom. There was a pause. And then she dropped the line I'd heard my entire life. Why do you always need to be so difficult? I looked out the window at the city skyline and felt nothing but clarity. Maybe because I spent too long trying to be easy for you. She hung up. The next morning, Delilah barged into my office. She didn't knock. She never knocked. She shut the door behind her, arms crossed tight over her silk blouse, eyes already welling. Performative, but dangerous. I can't believe you didn't cover for me, she hissed. Excuse me? The hotel. Nate told me HR is investigating the charge. I told them you approved it. You always back me up. What happened to that? I stayed seated. You used my name without asking. Again. You lied. Again. You're not 12 anymore, Delilah. She blinked like I'd slapped her. I did it to impress my team. I wanted to be respected. You don't get it. You already have everything. Everything? I laughed, quiet, bitter. You think I have everything because I stopped asking for crumbs? You think you're better than me because you're so together. No, I said, standing. I think I'm better at recovering from things that should have broken me. She stared at me, lip trembling. I softened, just slightly. I don't hate you, Delilah. I hate the way you never noticed how much I was bleeding just to keep the peace. After she left, I sat at my desk for almost an hour. The office buzzed beyond the glass. Phones, emails, chatter. But inside, it felt like stillness had grown teeth. Because that was the moment I knew this wasn't just about her. It was about them, my parents, the ecosystem that had made Delilah feel entitled to my sacrifice. The emotional debt I'd been paying since I could spell the word responsible. I made a copy of the spreadsheet, renamed it The Cost of Being the Good Daughter. Then I started adding rows I'd never dared quantify. Nights I skipped sleep to help Delilah edit papers, emotional labor during Mom's meltdowns while Dad watched sports. Every time I was told, don't say anything, it'll only make it worse. Every time it did. That weekend, I got a notification. The family WhatsApp group had changed its name. From Home Base to the three of us, no message, no warning, just the name change, a title card for their edited reality. I didn't text back. I didn't cry. I just deleted the app. Ever kept track of the things you gave, only to realize no one thought they cost you anything? It started with a nameplate, a simple rectangular plaque. Brushed steel. My full name etched clean in black. Zapra Dale, Chief Product Officer. It was the first time I saw it outside my door. The facilities team had installed it over the weekend. I stood there, coffee in hand, staring at the thing like it was some relic from a future I hadn't agreed to live yet. I hadn't told anyone in my family, not because I was hiding, because I knew what silence could protect me from. The backlash, the guilt, the narrative rewrite that would follow. Must be nice. You think you're better than us now? Don't forget where you came from. As if I ever could. My office felt colder than usual that morning. Maybe because HR had quietly initiated an internal review. Not against Delilah directly, but it didn't take a detective to know where the trail led. I hadn't pushed for it. I hadn't even said her name. All I did was forward documentation. Receipts. Approvals she fabricated. Charges she misrepresented. The facts did the damage. But when you're a woman in power, especially in a family that taught you to apologize for taking up space, there's no such thing as a neutral move. There's only what they say you meant. The twist came Friday. I was invited to a quarterly strategy review, one I didn't usually attend unless launching a product line. But this time, the invite was marked as mandatory. Nate, Delilah's boyfriend, was presenting. I hesitated before walking into the conference hall. Not out of fear, out of anticipation. The kind you feel when a dam is full and the cracks are showing. The room was filled with senior leadership, analysts, and a few newer team leads looking to make their mark. Nate stood near the projector, crisp white shirt rolled to his elbows, voice smooth, deck already mid-click. I sat quietly at the far left corner. No fanfare, no reaction. Until slide 4. It was a concept board. Tagline options for our latest wellness initiative. One of the phrases popped on screen, and I froze. Not because it was bad. Because I'd written it 2 years ago, word for word. I'd drafted that exact phrasing during a late-night sprint and pitched it in a now-archived campaign doc. Delilah had access. She'd interned in my department that summer, and now her boyfriend was presenting it as their original direction. My hand didn't raise. I simply stood. The room quieted as I walked to the front row. Nate paused. Zephra? I smiled, but it wasn't warm. I'm curious. What's the source on this phrasing? He blinked. Delilah and I workshopped it last week. She said, well, I assumed. You assumed she wrote it? I mean, yeah. She said it was hers. I turned slightly, addressing the room. It's not. It's mine. From a 2021 file titled Core Mindset Messaging Pilot Draft. It's archived under my old department. Time-stamped. Silence. I could see the director of strategy's eyes widen. Tony, our legal counsel, shifted slightly at the back, as if bracing for the fallout. I'm not here to make a scene, I said calmly, but I won't let patterns go unchecked. You're free to use the language. Just give it proper attribution. Nate swallowed. I had no idea. Now you do. I walked back to my seat. Calm, centered, but inside, I could feel it. The familiar burn of betrayal. This time, secondhand. By Monday, the aftershocks had reached Delilah. She showed up outside my office door before lunch, eyes wet, hands shaking. She didn't knock, again. You embarrassed me, she said, voice low and trembling. I corrected a theft. Why do you hate me so much? I looked up from my screen, slowly. I don't hate you. I hate that you keep doing this, and then crying like I'm the storm. She collapsed into the chair across from me. You don't get it. You've always been the one who had it together. Mom and Dad expect you to fix things. They don't expect me to succeed. I let that sit. You think I had it easy? I said finally. I paid for their expectations, with my energy, my boundaries, my name on debt, my work showing up under your voice. Delilah's mouth opened, then closed. I'm not trying to ruin you, Zephra. I wanted a win. You had dozens of wins handed to you. You just didn't have to work for them, so you don't know what it feels like to lose something you earned. She sat very still. Then, what do you want me to do? Start by stopping. That evening, I received a calendar invite. Subject, family dinner, come home. From, Mom. No message, no context, just a location and a time. At first, I hovered over decline, but then something in me paused. I clicked accept. The house hadn't changed. Same curtains, same collection of mugs with sarcastic slogans. Same cold draft in the hallway, like even the air had unresolved issues. We sat in the dining room. No one said grace. No one looked comfortable. I think, Dad began, that there's been enough damage. Damage, I repeated. Between you and Delilah? Between work and family? It's gotten out of hand. I folded my hands. You mean consequences? Mom interjected. Honey, don't twist things. We just want the family whole again. Delilah sat across from me, silent, eyes red. We were thinking, Dad continued. Maybe you could take a leave of absence. Let things settle. My fork stopped halfway to my plate. I'm sorry. You think I should step down? Just temporarily. Let Delilah regain her footing. She's fragile right now. That was it. The moment. The final drop in the glass that had been filling for decades. I put my fork down. You've used me. You've blamed me. You've leaned on me. But this is the first time you've asked me to erase myself. Don't be dramatic, Mom began. I'm not. I'm finally being accurate. I stood. I'm not taking a leave. I'm not stepping down, and I'm done sacrificing myself at the altar of your comfort. Delilah's voice broke the silence. She's right. Everyone turned. I lied. About the campaign, about the card, about all of it. Dad's face turned gray. Mom's mouth opened, shocked. Delilah looked at me. I'm sorry. It wasn't loud. It wasn't performative. But it was the first real thing she'd said in years. I didn't stay for dessert. I walked out before anyone could try to seal the scene with sweetness. I didn't return home for 2 weeks after the dinner. Not because I was sulking, because I needed distance to understand what forgiveness felt like without pressure. Truth is, I wasn't angry. Not anymore. Anger burns fast. But disappointment? That simmers. It becomes the silence in the hallway. The look you give someone when you realize they'll never understand how much of yourself you handed over to keep their version of the family intact. I used to believe silence made me noble. Now I know it made me useful. The Wednesday after that dinner, I got a text from Dad. You left too early. Your mother hasn't slept since. Please think about the bigger picture. This family needs healing. Can we have one last conversation? Civilized, no accusations? One last conversation. The words felt deliberate, prepackaged. I didn't reply, but I showed up, not for closure, for clarity. They chose a cafe halfway between my office and their neighborhood. Neutral territory, tables bolted to the floor, sugar packets in tiny ceramic bowls, the hum of espresso machines masking every unspoken word. My father wore his weekend golf polo, arms crossed even before he saw me. My mother looked tired, lipstick perfect, smile overcompensating. Zephra, she said too brightly, as if the last decade had been a scheduling error. I sat. No hugs, no small talk. Dad got to it first. We've been thinking, he said, leaning forward like a negotiation coach. It's time to settle all of this once and for all. I thought we tried that already, at dinner. No, Mom interrupted. We didn't really talk. You were upset. I was clear. Dad exhaled. Look, your sister's trying. She's going to therapy now. Good for her. We want to propose a plan, Mom said quickly, like the words might collapse if she said them slower. We pay you back what we can, for the things you covered. And in return? I asked. They paused. You dropped the investigation at your company, Dad said. I blinked. What investigation? They looked at each other. That's when I realized it. Delilah had told them everything, the HR audit, the misuse of funds, the copied work. Only she hadn't told the whole truth. She'd told a curated version, one where I was the aggressor. You think I initiated that? I said softly. You think I have time to chase revenge when I've been patching my own life together for the last 20 years? You're the only one who can stop it, Mom said. The family's reputation. I laughed. Not loudly, just enough. You care more about the appearance of damage than the actual damage. Dad's voice sharpened. You don't know what it's like to be publicly embarrassed as a parent. I do, I said. I was your daughter. The table went silent. You could hear the clink of silverware in the background, a baby giggling somewhere. But our table? A vacuum. Then I leaned in. You raised me to feel guilty for not being more useful. You praised Delilah for needing you. And now, because she's being held accountable for her choices, you want me to make it all disappear. Mom reached for her purse. We can write a check, pay back the tuition loan, even the credit card you co-signed. You mean the one you opened in my name when I was in grad school? Her hand froze. Dad shifted. It was a tough time financially. You never even asked. I didn't think you'd say no. That was the moment I knew. They never saw me as a daughter, just a reliable extension of their survival plan. I took a slow breath and pulled out a slim folder. Inside, notarized documents. I'm legally separating from financial liability tied to the Dale household. All joint accounts, all tax dependencies, all lingering debts associated with my name that were fraudulently opened have been addressed and protected, retroactively. You didn't have to go that far, Dad whispered. No, I said. You didn't. Mom's eyes glistened. We didn't mean to hurt you. You just needed me more than you wanted me. And now, you don't like the version of me that learned how to need herself instead. I stood, leaving the folder on the table. This isn't vengeance, it's distance, and I finally know the difference. Mom tried to say something, but the words never came. Maybe for the first time, she realized there was no script left to follow. Back at the office, I found Tony waiting outside my door. She's resigned, he said without preamble. Delilah? She sent the email this morning. No 2 weeks, no exit interview, just done. I nodded. What's the fallout? Nothing formal. She knew it was coming. It's quiet now. Good. He studied me. You okay? Better, I said. Strangely, Tony gave a small smile. Sometimes, survival looks like burning a bridge that was always a tunnel you were expected to crawl through. That night, I opened my laptop and finally deleted the spreadsheet. Expenses I wasn't supposed to question. Gone. But before I did, I made a copy. Not for them. For me. I renamed it. Proof I wasn't crazy. Because even if you don't need to carry the weight forever, sometimes you need to know it was real. Ever had to prove something to yourself before you let it go? The weeks after Delilah's resignation were strangely quiet. Not in the way grief is silent, but in the way growth is. Unannounced, personal, uninterrupted. No text from my parents. No just checking in emails. No voicemails full of guilt-coated apologies. Just stillness. It should have felt lonely. Instead, it felt like air for the first time. But then, the ripple hit. It started with a LinkedIn notification. A former colleague had reshared a podcast episode. The title caught my eye. The Cost of Loyalty: What Daughters Don't Say Out Loud. I clicked. The voice was unmistakable, Delilah's. The host was a soft-spoken woman who ran a semi-viral podcast focused on navigating complicated families and female identity in corporate spaces. The kind of content that floats quietly until it lands where it hurts. Delilah didn't name names. She never said Zifra or my sister. But the story she told? A girl from a perfectionist family who was forced to live in the shadow of a successful, emotionally distant sibling. A girl who never got a chance to grow because she was always compared to someone who never made mistakes. I paused the audio. Not out of anger, out of something colder, disbelief. I'd given her space, walked away with grace. And now, she'd rewritten the ending as if the story was hers to narrate. I thought of the nights I stayed up editing her papers, the job referrals, the co-signed loan, the silence I swallowed so she could feel like she belonged somewhere. And now, she was the victim of toxic high-achiever energy. I forwarded the link to Tony with one sentence. Should I respond? His reply came 30 seconds later. No need. Silence, when you're in the truth, is a louder statement than any rebuttal. Still, it ate at me. Not because of pride, because of precedent. This wasn't just about me. It was about every woman who'd been painted as difficult for setting a boundary. Every daughter expected to play the role of scapegoat, just because she refused to make herself small enough to fit someone else's comfort. The twist came through an unexpected door. Our internal DEI team. They were planning a leadership spotlight for Women's History Month. I had been nominated, unbeknownst to me, by 3 department heads. They wanted me to speak, not about metrics, not about growth strategy, about resilience. I said yes. The day of the spotlight event, the auditorium was full. Employees from every floor. My name on the screen, no title next to it. Just one word. Voice. I walked to the mic, took a breath. I was raised to think silence was strength, that if you endured long enough, forgave fast enough, smiled wide enough, you'd earn your place. I was wrong. Silence isn't strength, it's currency, and for too long, I spent it like I owed someone change. There wasn't a sound in the room. I glanced down at my notes, then back up. Sometimes the people who love you also shape you into who they need you to be, not who you actually are. And unlearning that shape? It's painful, but it's necessary. Because dignity is not something you inherit. It's something you take back. Quietly, if you have to. A beat. And then applause. Full. Genuine. A few standing. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I just stood there, unbothered, unmoved by the absence of those who used to define my worth. That night, I received an email. Subject: I heard your speech. From Delilah, no body text, no attachments, just the subject line. I didn't reply. Because some conversations aren't invitations, they're acknowledgments. A week later, I visited a bookstore downtown, a small one I used to go to during college when I needed to feel unknown. I picked up a copy of Women Who Run with the Wolves and noticed a girl across the aisle, probably early 20s, watching me. She approached, hesitant. Sorry, I saw your talk online, the company event. I don't even work there. I just stumbled across the video. My sister's kind of like your story felt familiar. I smiled, genuinely. You're not alone, I said, then handed her the book. Read this, then write your own. She nodded, almost shy. Thanks, and walked away, holding the book like a map. The email arrived at 6:03 a.m. Subject: Please come. It's your mother. From Dad. I read it once, then again. There was no greeting, no details. Just those 5 words wrapped in urgency and familiarity. I didn't reply. Instead, I stared at the subject line, wondering how many times guilt had arrived dressed as family concern. By noon, there were 2 missed calls. One from my father, one from an unknown number with a hospital area code. I called the hospital directly. The nurse confirmed my mother had collapsed while shopping. Blood pressure. Stress-induced, they said, not critical. She just kept repeating your name, the nurse added softly. That was the string. And for a brief, breathless second, I tugged. I drove out that evening. Not for them. For closure. The house looked smaller than I remembered. The windows didn't glow anymore. They glared. Familiar, but hollow. Dad answered the door like he'd been standing behind it all day. She's resting, he said, but she asked for you. No apology. No warmth. Just a summons disguised as concern. I stepped inside. Her bedroom smelled of lavender and menthol. I expected silence. Instead, the TV was on. Some quiz show murmuring answers no one was listening to. Mom was propped up on pillows, pale but alert. She smiled weakly. You came. I heard you weren't well. She patted the bed beside her. I didn't move, just stood at the foot of the bed. Her smile faltered. You're still angry. No, I said. I'm just not confused anymore. She shifted uncomfortably. I wanted to say sorry for how things spiraled. Spiraled? I repeated. Or how things were exposed. Her lips thinned. You were always the strong one, she whispered. We didn't think you needed as much. I nodded slowly. That's exactly what you taught me. To need nothing. So you could take everything without guilt. Her hands fidgeted with the blanket. We never meant harm. Meaning doesn't undo impact. She looked away, and for once didn't correct me. Then came the moment. Dad stepped in, holding a manila envelope. There's something we should tell you. I didn't sit. He handed it over. Insurance paperwork, it's time you knew. I opened it. My name was listed as primary policyholder. Health, life, dental, everything. Effective since I was 22. The signature at the bottom wasn't mine. I stared at it, then at them. You used my name to insure yourselves? We were between plans. You had stable employment. You forged my signature. Dad cleared his throat. It was a safety net, just in case. For you, I said. Not for me. That was the final thread. The last quiet theft. The ultimate proof that love, in our house, had always come with legal disclaimers. I set the folder down gently. This is the last time I step into this house as your daughter. Mom's eyes widened. Don't say that. I'm not saying it, I replied. I'm filing it. I took off the scarf around my neck, the one with the delicate silver charm from my grandmother. She'd given it to me before she passed, whispering, "Wear this when you're ready to choose your own blood." I placed it on the nightstand. A silent goodbye. I'm reclaiming the name she gave me, I said. The one you never spoke with respect. Dad stepped forward. You're overreacting. I smiled. No, I'm finally reacting in proportion. As I left the room, I passed by the living room wall, the family photo still hanging. All of us, smiling on a fake beach background, wearing matching white shirts. I paused, then reached up and removed the frame. Have you ever realized a place you called home was just a place you were holding together? The room quieted as I stepped to the stage. No script, just breath. The plaque in my hand read Transformative Executive of the Year. But I knew the award wasn't just mine. It belonged to every person who'd ever had to prove they were more than what their family saw. I looked out over the crowd. I used to believe dignity was something others gave you, I said. Now I know. It's something you take back, silently, step by step. There was a pause, a stillness that felt sacred. I didn't get here by being loud. I got here by not disappearing. Afterward, I didn't linger. I walked out into the cold night, wrapped in quiet pride. Not the kind you show off, the kind that makes your spine stand straighter. I stopped by a mailbox on the corner. Inside was a final envelope, my legal name change form. No more Dale. I had chosen my grandmother's name, the only woman who never tried to silence me. I dropped the envelope into the slot. That weekend, Delilah sent a handwritten letter. No excuses. Just 5 words. I see it now. Thank you. I didn't reply. Forgiveness, I'd learned, doesn't always require conversation. Sometimes, it's just the decision to move forward without dragging the past behind you. I framed the photo of myself at the podium, hung it above my new desk, not to remember who I became, but to remind myself of who I never have to be again. What part of yourself are you finally ready to reclaim? Quietly? Powerfully? Without permission? In the end, I didn't walk away to be cruel. I walked away to be whole. Sometimes the hardest decision you'll ever make is choosing peace over permission, choosing to heal even when no one says sorry. If you've ever been made to feel like you owe your silence to keep others comfortable, let this be your sign. You don't. What about you? Have you ever had to reclaim your voice from the people who raised you? Or step away from a place that no longer felt like home? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Let me know where you're watching from, or even what part of this story spoke to you most. And hey, if this video resonated with you, if it reached that quiet corner of your heart, consider subscribing to the channel. We tell real stories for real people, and the next one might be yours.